My name is Linda Kaiser, and welcome to The Circle. I am joined by my co-host, Morgan Rhodes, and our guests today are Catherine Harris, Shelley Evans, and Mary Beth Lord. And we decided to talk about permaculture, and I want to read a little thing about permaculture that I found. It says, the philosophy behind permaculture is one of working with rather than against nature, of protracted and thoughtful observation rather than protracted and thoughtless action, of looking at systems in all their functions rather than asking only one yield of them, and allowing systems to demonstrate their own evolutions. Well, today we're going to discuss water. And water is interesting because it has consciousness. And not only does it have consciousness, by weight, the average adult person is approximately 60% water. Little babies are more. So it depends on your body weight, but we are beings of water. And in particular, with the consciousness that water has, I think it's very important that we consider the consciousness. So I'm going to ask Shelley to comment on that first.
Not only is water consciousness, water is actually a beautiful love story. We have hydrogen and we have oxygen combining, and what happens when those two combine is they make an entirely new element. Just like the noosphere for the collective humanity, what we have is a love story, a beautiful love story. So we're addressing permanent agriculture and what endures. So what we know about what endures is love.
Can we put love into a frack well? That would be interesting, right? Yeah. One of my biggest concerns is that fracking is an extreme and unsafe method of taking fossil fuel from the ground. And it harms our drinking water. And not only does it harm our drinking water, but the poor people in Oklahoma are having multiple earthquakes, 3 and 4 earthquakes a day right now. And I'm wondering if we could love a fracking well. That would be interesting.
Well, let's consider what happens to love when it's abused, when it's not honored. And now we're going to be a little closer to what happens when we are using fracking and what happens in groundwater and the longevity. This isn't just in the moment of utilizing the fracking. Mary Beth, you have really good insights with regard to the fracking.
Absolutely. Since 2002, we've used hundreds of billions of gallons of fresh water to frack, the earth to get our natural gas. And, when they use that water, it's combined with some of the most heinous poisons and chemicals that once that water is used, it can never be used as fresh water again on the earth. And it stays deep underground. And the scientists still have no way of knowing in the future if that water is ever going to seep into our aquifers, down, into the water table. So, people need to be conscious. I know everybody wants their natural gas to make their life easy for heating and cooking, but we do have to be conscious about this. Not only are we, doing it to get our natural gas, but we're really harming Mother Earth through all of this. And we need to think about this. It would be different if there was no other alternative energy sources available, but there are now. We have perfected solar and wind and hydro. So it's time to, really become conscious and really think about our water, because it's all that we have. It's on the planet now. We're not going to have any more. And this is for all future generations. So just, it's a time to really become conscious, and also to pray for the people in those jobs, the people that are in the fracking jobs. I can't believe that they are aware of all of the damage that's being done. And even if they are, they need our help. They need us to meditate for them, pray for them, and, really use our global consciousness to affect their decisions.
In New Hampshire, fracking is against the law. And I'm not sure what it is in your states. You frack in Colorado, right, Catherine?
Yes, we frack here, and we have people who can light their taps on fire coming straight out of the kitchen faucet.
Wow.
I would love it if we could love fracking straight off of
The
the
earth.
planet. Yeah, straight out of existence. But there are many alternatives, and we just simply can't take chances with water. It is so fundamental, and it is so much under threat from, radioactivity, from pollution, from fracking. It's very dangerous what we're doing. And fortunately, there are many people on the planet who are actively praying for the safety and purity of our water. And many of them are, Native American people, but there's also larger movements of people. There was just a global meditation on water over the weekend here on the equinox. So there's hopeful signs that people are becoming more and more conscious of how urgently we need to protect our water.
I don't understand. I guess I wonder sometimes where people are in their attitudes about watching their water and watching what they drink, and whether or not it comes out of a tap or whether or not it comes out of a bottle. Do you guys drink bottled water, or do you drink tap water where you are?
My water comes from a well. I'm very cautious about any water. Number one, just for the plastic that's used. I want to stay away from that and do everything I can to not support that industry, for starters. But as we think of it in terms of consciousness, we are not isolated, just as Rumi says, one drop in the ocean. We are the entire ocean in a drop. And if you can grasp that fact, it really helps to shed a little light on how powerful we really are to influence the water, not only in our own body, but now once you've influenced the water in your body, you know that the person standing next to you or your animals are receiving that same influence.
Do you bless your water before you drink it?
I definitely do. Grandma always knew what she was talking about when she said bless your food, because we have science now to back that up.
I know, isn't that cool?
It's so beautiful to validate Grandma.
I love that. I love that. I don't think we ever sat down to a meal at our home when I was a little girl that we didn't say grace first. Always,
Right.
always, always, always. And now you're right. Science says that there is proof that our thought affects the water.
And how easy is that to use a simple thought of gratitude, of appreciation, of love to influence your water before you have a drink?
Right. And if you pray about your plants, they grow better. When I water the plants, I say a blessing for the water that's going in the plant. And when I water my garden, I say a blessing. I don't know, maybe people think I'm crazy, but I think there is scientific evidence now. And it's important that type of science get out to the world.
And that it be treated and validated, with the authority that it really holds.
I'll tell you one thing I learned, you guys, that really upset me a little bit. I watched something on the news, and it was about the fact that all the drugs that we take, when we excrete them in our urine, they go down the drain and they go into the water table, right? And then we end up drinking someone's Viagra or their hormones or whatever it is people take, antibiotics, for instance. This all gets back into the water table. So I got all excited and I called public service, or not public service, but our water company here in New Hampshire. And I said, what happens? Do you treat the water? Should I be concerned? Am I drinking someone else's excreted antibiotics or their Viagra or whatever? And they said, no, you don't have to worry about that. And just as my body relaxed, she said, except in the summer when we pump out of the river. And I went, whoa. So now have you all ever thought about that? Have you
Not
ever?
only, not only when the water goes through its cleaning purification, it always maintains that signature of whatever's been in it.
So we can't get rid of that, is what you're saying?
So we need to take different measures. We cannot create it from the same place it was. We cannot create healing from the same place that it was put into the water. We have to come at it from a completely different perspective.
So how do we do that?
Prayer is a good place to start. Intention is a really good place to start. There are a lot of technologies with plasma energy, and although they aren't readily available yet, they are certainly in stages where they are being demonstrated throughout the world and being able to use to clean the water on that level, where it's taking that energy signature of everything that's been in the water back to a 0 point, back to the original divine blueprint. And that's what we, as humanity, have the ability to activate. It takes doing your own homework.
And what about Fukushima? Who wants to comment about that?
Fukushima, the radiation, as we know, okay, I'm not advocating radiation with what I'm about to say, but what we know is humanity evolves when they're put into these situations where there's no other way to turn. We learn to adapt, and we can raise above that, where that is no longer affecting us. Or we go the way of the dinosaurs. And so everything on the planet is looking like humanity is in a position to evolve.
Do you feel that there is enough in the news about Fukushima, about what is going on regarding the radiation in the fish and whether or not we should be eating the fish? Have you
No,
guys
of course not.
No, and then, when they find, deformed fish and deformed sea life washing up, there's always a byline that scientists just don't know what's causing it. And that's just another one of those little detours that they try to take you down. It's like, well, ask one of us, ask any of us, and we'll tell you what's causing it.
Morgan, what about the southeastern part of the United States where you are? What are your concerns about water?
I'll say a couple of positive things about some things I found, maybe not necessarily relative to the Southeast, but just kind of, we all know that water naturally takes on the vibrations and the energy of its environment. And, our bodies are kind of like a sponge, and they're composed of, trillions of cells that hold liquid. So our quality of life really is affected by our water. But I was encouraged when I went online, just seeing how many people are really being conscious of the kind of water that they're drinking, how many things I found about alkaline water and the research that was going on in Japan about pH neutralized water that really can oxygenize your cells and get rid of waste. There were a lot of articles posted just relative to geometrically structured waters and the way that can help your body. So there are a lot of good things and a lot of consciousness related to the type of water we are putting in our body. And since it is so vital to our health, I just found that very encouraging. But related to permaculture, on permaculturenews.org, I found an article just talking about a new approach to water management in the world. There are a group of people that are really focused on a new water paradigm, and they're focusing on the ways that we can get the most possible value out of our land water. And the idea is that, 2/3 of our water really comes from small water cycles, which, the large water cycle is what we learn in school in biology. It's the evaporation, and then it goes to the clouds, to the precipitation, and it goes down to the earth. But the small water cycle is really what happens on land. And it really that it's our ignorance of the small water cycle that has resulted in our incapacity to see past deforestation and urbanization. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, there's an argument that the willow trees are really sucking the water up and they're using too much. So maybe we should get rid of the willow trees. But really our land is kind of regulating the temperature of our water and helping with the water on the ground. So I just thought that kind of paradigm shift in the way that we're thinking about our water was also very encouraging.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot going on in agriculture right now about saving water. And one of the big things that I've been looking at is when you manage your soil correctly and put a lot of nutrients back in the soil and also not till your soil. So farmers tend to till their soil, but if they would not till their soil, that allows the water to be kept in the soil rather than evaporating into the air. So that's one of the things that I've been looking at a lot about different methods of farming is how does one actually prepare the soil to keep the water in the soil rather than evaporating. And the tillage issue is a really big issue right now.
I found a book by Toby Hemingway called Gaia's Garden. And this was in an article of working with the flow of water and really understanding it. But the 5 practical steps that he says to conserving water, one of them was what you're saying, high organic matter content. But the other one was conserving water, soil contouring, locating plants according to water needs, and deep mulching. And the idea, I just thought his book was very compelling, that those 5 things can really help conserve water. And then there were practical steps really on how to implement that individually.
I've got a question for Mary Beth. Do you teach your grandchildren to turn off the water faucet when they brush their teeth?
Absolutely. Yeah. Not only my grandchildren, but my children as well. We were never ones to ever let the faucet run. And I really do teach them about water. We love to go to their park down the street, and we have a beautiful creek there. And you know, they're so thrilled with the water there, and just to be able to watch the fish. And you know, it's all those little things. And getting back to what Shelley was saying about, you know, the consciousness of water, you know, you can take that one step further, and we can pray over water and purify it and change its molecular structure and all of that. But you know, when you think about a body, each of us is comprised of mostly water. And so that I would imagine the exact same theory holds true when we speak to each other, and we're speaking to water beings. So again, I think we need the global consciousness to realize that our words matter, our love matters, our intention matters, whether we're praying over water or food or just praying for each other's well-being.
That we're water beings.
We are water beings.
Think about that. I really don't.
Yeah. So my words can really affect you, and your words can truly affect me.
And all my water in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I got a question for Catherine. You live in Colorado, where you guys control the water rights for California. So what is the conversation that goes on in Colorado about how powerful you are as a state? And furthermore, let me just ask you a question. Do you think that water rights should be owned?
It's a very interesting question, and this is a debate that has gone on for years, because where the Rocky Mountains reach the Continental Divide, all the waters that are headwaters on the eastern slope run to the east and end up in rivers and bodies of water that are flowing to the Gulf of Mexico. For instance, the Arkansas River starts in Colorado, but it's named after where it lands. And then all the headwaters on the western slope flow to the west. So I think that's perhaps figured into the formulas or the equations for how they distribute and share the water. But for the longest time, we had a law here that said that it was illegal for us to collect our own rainwater, which I thought was completely insane. And yet I spoke to a woman who was collecting rainwater in a bathtub in her yard, and someone turned her in for that, and she was forced to take that down. They've just recently reversed that. But that was all based in the idea that private citizens would be collecting so much water that we would somehow be, creating imbalances in the amount of water that's going downstream to irrigate all these drier states. Because the Colorado River flows all the way down into Lake Mead. So water has been a source of contention out here in the West for many years. And people here even get upset when they hear that, you know, how it's being used in California. They might not agree that it's all right to keep the almond groves going. Meanwhile, the people are drinking water out of bottles because they don't have water in their town.
Well, and Mary Beth, we have a friend who just experienced part of the problem out of that well in California, which was gas, but that pollutes water as well.
Yeah, well, out there with the methane leaks and all of that. I mean, they're saying now, you know, California in that area, they don't know. It may be years until the soil is safe, till people can come back to their homes. You know, we have a friend who had to leave her home and had to move to Washington because she was getting so ill, her and her husband. And she's had family members that have had to leave. And it's just, when you look at the natural resources, I don't understand how we can allow anybody to actually own them. I feel that God put them here for each one of us. Each one of us has the right to live. Each one of us has the right to collect the water that comes from the sky and drink it and use it for our use. You know, each one of us has the right to grow in our soil, clean soil. And when you look at, you know, the chemtrails and the different things from the methane gases, from the radiation leaking, from nuclear power plants, from all of that, you know, we all have to collectively say enough. You know, this was all created for us. And it's time through, you know, all of these discussions that we're having with people, all the global meditations that are going on. So many people are becoming aware now. And it makes me so happy to know it. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but together we can do it. And I know that's what, you know, this group that we're finding through Global Mission of Peace, we are going to do this. We're attracting all kinds of magnificent people with so much education and so much knowledge. And we're going to band together and we're going to really, you know, help to heal Mother Earth again.
Well, it is exciting because I think maybe we'll get back to the place where we can go to a spring or a stream and see it as a healing spot.
Yeah.
A long, long time ago, springs and wells were perceived as the dwelling place of supernatural beings. And even when I lived in Colorado, we used to go to Glenwood Springs and soak in the hot sulfur springs there. That was wonderful. And we've sort of gotten away from that tradition of healing water, I think.
And may I say something too, is that this is part of what's led to a movement that we think of as environmental justice, which is basically saying that it is a human right, a basic human right, to have a clean environment, a clean, safe environment.
Yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr. has an organization called Water Keepers. And years ago, the Hudson River was badly polluted. And today, the Hudson River is a whole different river. So I do see a lot of political action going on around the country. And I also see a lot of action going around in terms of cleaning the ocean and doing things we need to do. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that there is a lot of change going on. I know that here where I live, I've been on the planning board for many years, and people complain a lot about how expensive it is to build a gas station in our town because they have to spend a fortune going in with a concrete pad underneath their gas station because we live on top of the largest stratified drift aquifer in southern New Hampshire. And so locally, we are extremely aware of where we live and extremely aware of what goes into the aquifer and the chemicals that go on to the gardens and the yards. So I see a lot of good stuff going on about that. Mm-hmm. So Morgan, what do you see? Take us out.
I see a lot of positivity too. As you were saying about policy, seeing a lot of policy changes. I couldn't even begin to pronounce their names, but the people that are relevant to that water, the new water paradigm, are really trying to affect policy changes that are really ignoring the fact that a lot of our water comes from the small water cycle. So I guess I just want to end with a call to action. You know, really water, the earth is really what we all have in common, and over 70% of it, as well as most of the inhabitants on the earth, are made out of water. So, in alignment with focusing on our similarities instead of our differences, and like Mary Beth said about, just recognizing that we're all water beings, I would encourage all of our viewers to have that balance as water does, to revive. It has that balance between being able to destroy and really revive, but having that kind of soft, power. It's softly powerful. And I would say as we move forward, to move forward in that manner. Join us next week as we talk about food. And I hope everybody has a great night.